Wait, don't touch that microwave. That innocent-looking leftover in your fridge? It could be silently destroying your brain cells right now. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to save you. Because what I'm about to reveal has been buried in medical journals for years. And the food industry doesn't want you to know this. There are 5 foods sitting in your kitchen right now that transform into cancer-causing toxins the moment you reheat them. Foods your doctor told you were healthy. Foods you've been eating your entire life. And food number 5? When I discovered what happens to it in the microwave, I immediately changed how I eat. Stay until the end, because this one affects 9 out of 10 people watching this video. Here's something that happened last month. My colleague, 54 years old, always ate healthy, meal prepped every Sunday, spinach salads, grilled chicken, steamed vegetables, the whole 9 yards. One day, he's rushed to the emergency room with severe stomach inflammation. The doctors ran tests. No food poisoning, no bacterial infection. Nothing made sense until one specialist asked him, "Do you reheat your meals?" That question changed everything. See, what most people don't understand is that when you cook food, you're not just heating it up. You're causing chemical reactions at the molecular level. And when you reheat certain foods, especially using high heat like microwaves, you're triggering a second set of reactions. Reactions that create compounds so toxic, they're classified by the World Health Organization as Group 2A carcinogens. That means probably causes cancer in humans. But here's what makes this truly terrifying. These changes are completely invisible. No smell, no color change, no warning signs. Just silent cellular damage accumulating in your body, meal after meal, day after day. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which foods to never reheat, the scientific reason why they become toxic, and most importantly, how to protect yourself starting today. If this already sounds important to you, hit that like button so this information reaches more people. And subscribe because I dig through hundreds of medical studies to bring you health truths that actually matter. Comment the number 1 if you're ready to learn something that could add years to your life. Now let's dive into the science. Food number O and E. Spinach. Food number 1 is spinach. And I know what you're thinking. Spinach? That's one of the healthiest foods on the planet. You're absolutely right. Fresh spinach is a nutritional powerhouse. It's loaded with vitamin K for bone health, iron for oxygen transport, antioxidants that fight aging, and nitrates that improve blood flow. In fact, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published research showing that fresh spinach nitrates can lower blood pressure and boost athletic performance. But here's where it gets sinister. Let me break down exactly what happens when you reheat spinach. And this is the part that should concern everyone over 40. Stage 1, cooking. When you first cook spinach, those beneficial nitrates remain stable. Your body converts them into nitric oxide, which relaxes blood vessels and improves circulation. This is perfectly fine. Stage 2, storage. The danger begins the moment cooked spinach sits in your fridge. Even at proper refrigeration temperatures, bacteria start multiplying, not enough to make you sick, but enough to start a chemical process. These bacteria convert nitrates into nitrites. Stage 3, reheating. Now here's the killer. When you reheat that stored spinach, especially in a microwave where heat is uneven and intense, those nitrites undergo a final transformation. They become nitrosamines. Listen to this carefully. The National Cancer Institute has conducted over 40 years of research on nitrosamines. Their findings? These compounds are directly linked to stomach cancer. They damage the lining of your digestive tract, causing mutations in cells. Colorectal cancer. Studies show a 31% increased risk with regular exposure. And brain inflammation. Recent neuroscience research published in the journal Neurology reveals nitrosamines can cross the blood-brain barrier. And here's what makes this particularly dangerous for anyone over 50. As we age, our bodies lose the ability to efficiently detoxify these compounds. Your liver slows down. Your cellular repair mechanisms weaken. What your body could handle at 30 becomes genuinely harmful at 60. Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Harvard Medical School puts it this way. Chronic low-level exposure to nitrosamines creates persistent inflammation. This inflammation is like a slow-burning fire that accelerates cognitive decline, increases dementia risk, and damages your cardiovascular system. Imagine this weekly routine. Sunday, you batch cook a healthy spinach and lentil soup. You're proud of yourself for meal prepping. Tuesday, lunch break at work. You microwave a bowl. It tastes fine, maybe a bit metallic, but you ignore it. Thursday, another bowl. Still tastes okay. By the end of the month, you've consumed that soup 8 to 10 times. Reheated every single time. What you don't see. Each reheating session has increased nitrosamine levels. Your body is accumulating these toxins. No symptoms yet, but the damage is happening at the cellular level. After 6 months, a year, 5 years, that's when the inflammation manifests. Brain fog, joint pain, digestive issues, and in the worst cases, abnormal cell growth that doctors eventually diagnose as cancer. The solution is surprisingly simple. Eat spinach fresh whenever possible. Add raw spinach to salads, smoothies, or sandwiches. If you cook spinach, only make what you'll eat in one sitting. If you absolutely must store cooked spinach, eat it cold the next day. Add it to a cold pasta salad or eat it as a side dish straight from the fridge. Never, and I mean never, reheat spinach more than once. If you've already reheated it, throw it out. It's not worth the risk. One small change in how you handle spinach could prevent years of inflammatory damage and significantly reduce your cancer risk. That's not an exaggeration. That's what the science shows. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, comment number 1 below to let me know you're paying attention. Your engagement helps YouTube show this video to more people who need this information. Food number 2, potatoes. Now this one is particularly dangerous, and most people have no idea. Potatoes are a staple food worldwide. Affordable, filling, versatile. You can mash them, roast them, bake them, fry them. They're comfort food at its finest. But when you cook potatoes, let them cool, and then reheat them. You're creating the perfect breeding ground for one of the deadliest bacteria known to medicine, Clostridium botulinum. Yes, the same bacteria that causes botulism. Here's exactly how this happens. When you bake or boil a potato, the heat kills most bacteria, but Clostridium botulinum exists as spores. These spores can survive cooking temperatures, especially in the oxygen-poor environment inside a dense potato. Now, if you wrap that cooked potato in aluminum foil and let it cool slowly at room temperature, you've just created a bacterial paradise. No oxygen, plenty of moisture, starchy food source, and the perfect temperature range for those spores to germinate and multiply. Even if you refrigerate it afterwards, the damage is often already done. The bacteria have produced neurotoxins. These toxins are odorless, tasteless, and invisible. You cannot detect them. And here's the terrifying part. Reheating doesn't destroy these toxins. The symptoms of botulism include nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, difficulty breathing, and in severe cases, paralysis. For elderly individuals or those with compromised immune systems, this can be fatal. But even if you don't get full-blown botulism, there's another concern with reheated potatoes: resistant starch and bacterial overgrowth. When potatoes cool after cooking, their starches undergo retrogradation. They transform into resistant starch in small amounts. This can actually be beneficial for gut health. But when you reheat these potatoes, especially unevenly in a microwave, you create pockets of warm, partially heated starch that become ideal breeding grounds for harmful bacteria. Research published in the Journal of Food Protection shows that improperly stored and reheated potatoes are one of the leading causes of foodborne illness outbreaks in institutional settings like hospitals and nursing homes. For older adults, this is particularly concerning. The gut-brain axis, the connection between your digestive system and your brain, is incredibly sensitive. Chronic exposure to bacterial toxins, even at low levels, has been linked to increased inflammation in the brain, contributing to cognitive decline and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Studies published in Frontiers in Neuroscience demonstrate that gut inflammation directly impacts brain health, mood regulation, and memory formation. Let me give you a real-world example. You make a big batch of baked potatoes for Sunday dinner. You wrap the extras in foil. Let them cool on the counter while you clean up for an hour. Then put them in the fridge. Wednesday, You're hungry. You grab one, microwave it for 2 minutes, and eat it. It tastes fine. But what you don't realize is that during that hour of slow cooling, Clostridium botulinum spores germinated. They produce tiny amounts of toxin, not enough to make you violently ill, but enough to cause inflammation in your gut. Do this regularly, and you're chronically exposing yourself to neurotoxins. Here's how to handle potatoes safely. Cook only what you'll eat fresh. If you must store leftovers, cool them quickly. Remove them from foil immediately after cooking. Spread them out to cool, and refrigerate within 2 hours. Store in airtight containers, not foil, to allow proper temperature regulation. When reheating, use an oven or stovetop to ensure even heating throughout. Never reheat potatoes more than once. If leftovers have been in the fridge for more than 2 days, throw them out. Potatoes are nutritious when handled correctly, but the wrong storage and reheating practices can turn them into a genuine health hazard, especially for seniors and anyone with weakened immunity. If you're finding these warnings eye-opening, make sure you're subscribed because food number 5 is even more shocking. Food number 3, eggs. This one surprised even me when I first researched it. Eggs are a breakfast staple, high in protein, rich in choline for brain health, packed with essential amino acids. They're one of nature's perfect foods. Scrambled, boiled, poached, fried. Eggs are incredibly versatile. But here's what most people don't know. Reheating cooked eggs, especially at high temperatures or in a microwave, triggers a chemical process that transforms healthy cholesterol into toxic oxidized cholesterol. Let me explain the science. Egg yolks contain a high concentration of cholesterol. When you first cook an egg, the proteins denature, and the cholesterol remains in a relatively stable form. Your body can process this normally. But when you reheat that already cooked egg, especially using uneven, intense heat like a microwave, the cholesterol undergoes oxidation. It transforms into compounds called oxysterols. Research published in the Journal of Lipid Research shows that oxysterols are far more dangerous than regular cholesterol. They promote inflammation in your arteries, increase the formation of arterial plaques, and significantly raise your risk of cardiovascular disease. But it gets worse. These oxidized compounds don't just affect your heart. Recent studies in Nature Reviews Neurology demonstrate a direct link between oxysterols and brain inflammation. Chronic inflammation in the brain is now recognized as one of the primary drivers of Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and cognitive decline. Think about what happens to your cognition as you age. Memory lapses, difficulty concentrating, brain fog. For years, we thought this was just normal aging. But cutting-edge neuroscience reveals that much of this decline is driven by chronic inflammation and dietary factors, including oxidized fats from reheated foods, play a significant role. For people over 50, this is critical. As we age, our bodies process fats less efficiently, our arteries lose flexibility, our brains become more vulnerable to inflammatory damage. A dietary habit that seemed harmless in your 30s, like reheating scrambled eggs, can have compounding negative effects in your 60s and beyond. Let me paint a picture. Every Sunday, you hard-boil a dozen eggs for quick protein snacks throughout the week. Monday, you grab one, microwave it for 30 seconds to warm it up. Wednesday, same thing. Friday, same thing. Each time you reheat that egg, you're creating more oxysterols. Your body tries to process these toxic compounds, but they accumulate in your arterial walls and brain tissue. Over months and years, this contributes to atherosclerosis, increased stroke risk, and accelerated cognitive aging. The texture change you notice in reheated eggs, that rubbery, sulfurous quality, that's actually a visual indicator of the chemical changes happening. The proteins have broken down further, sulfur compounds have degraded, and the cholesterol has oxidized. Here's the good news. Eggs are still incredibly healthy when consumed fresh or shortly after cooking. The key is how you handle them. Eat eggs immediately after cooking whenever possible. If you meal prep eggs, consider eating them cold instead of reheating. Hard-boiled eggs are delicious in salads, on sandwiches, or as a cold snack. Cold doesn't trigger the oxidation process. If you absolutely must reheat eggs, use gentle, low heat on a stovetop rather than a microwave. This minimizes oxidation. Never reheat eggs more than once. Store cooked eggs in the refrigerator and consume within 2 to 3 days maximum. One simple change: eating your eggs fresh or cold can dramatically reduce your exposure to inflammatory compounds and protect both your heart and brain health long term. Comment number 2 below if you're still with me and learning something valuable. We're about to get to the most surprising foods. Food number 4. Chicken. Now, this is where things get really concerning because chicken is one of the most commonly reheated foods in the world. Chicken is lean protein. It's affordable. It's the backbone of meal prep culture. Gym goers, busy professionals, health-conscious families. Everyone batch cooks chicken. Sunday meal prep has become a ritual. Grill or bake several chicken breasts. Portion them into containers. Store them in the fridge. And reheat throughout the week. Seems smart, right? High protein, low fat, convenient. But here's what's happening that you can't see. When you first cook chicken, the proteins denature and become digestible. Your body breaks them down efficiently into amino acids for muscle repair, immune function, and cellular health. But when you reheat that same chicken, especially using high heat or a microwave, those proteins undergo a second round of denaturation. They become tougher, more rigid, and significantly harder for your digestive system to process. For younger people with robust digestion, this might cause minor discomfort. But as we age, our production of digestive enzymes and stomach acid naturally declines. Foods that were easy to digest at 30 become increasingly difficult at 50, 60, or 70. The result? Bloating, gas, that heavy, sluggish feeling after meals, and chronic digestive inflammation. But the real danger lies deeper. When chicken proteins are reheated multiple times or at high temperatures, they can form compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs are toxic compounds formed when proteins or fats are exposed to high heat repeatedly, and they're not a minor concern. Research in nutritional science has directly linked AGEs to chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. Why does this matter? Because chronic inflammation is now recognized as the root cause of virtually every age-related disease. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, arthritis, even certain cancers. A landmark study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that dietary AGEs contribute significantly to inflammatory markers in the blood. The more AGEs you consume, the higher your levels of C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. All of these are inflammatory markers associated with disease progression and accelerated aging. Dr. Helen Vlasara, a leading researcher at Mount Sinai School of Medicine, has spent decades studying AGEs. Her research shows that reducing dietary AGEs can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce oxidative stress, and even slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease in animal models. Let me give you a scenario that probably sounds familiar. It's Sunday evening. You've grilled 6 chicken breasts for the week. You store them in the fridge. Tuesday, you microwave one for lunch. You notice it's a bit dry, slightly rubbery, maybe has a faint off flavor, but it's still edible. So you eat it. What you're actually consuming is chicken with significantly altered protein structure and elevated AGE content. Your digestive system struggles to break it down. Your gut becomes inflamed. That inflammation sends signals throughout your body via inflammatory cytokines. Do this twice a week for a year. You consumed over 100 meals with elevated AGEs. Do this for 5 years. 10 years? The cumulative inflammatory burden becomes substantial. For older adults already dealing with inflammation-related issues like joint pain, high blood pressure, or cognitive decline, reheated chicken adds fuel to the fire. Here's how to minimize risk. Cook smaller portions of chicken that you'll eat fresh within a day. If you must meal prep, consider using cooked chicken cold. Add it to salads, wraps, or cold grain bowls. Cold doesn't trigger additional protein damage. If reheating is necessary, use gentle, low-temperature methods. A stovetop pan with a bit of water or broth, or a low-temperature oven. Avoid microwaving, which creates uneven hot spots. Never reheat chicken more than once. After one reheating, discard any leftovers. Chicken itself is healthy, but how you prepare and reheat it makes all the difference between a nutritious meal and one that contributes to long-term inflammatory damage. If you're still watching and these insights are valuable, comment number 3 below. We're almost to the most shocking food on this list. Food number 5, mushroom. And this one is going to surprise most people because mushrooms are considered a health food by virtually everyone. Mushrooms are unique. They're packed with antioxidants, B vitamins, selenium, and powerful immune-supporting compounds like beta-glucans. Research shows mushrooms can boost immunity, reduce cancer risk, support heart health, and even improve cognitive function. Cremini, portobello, shiitake, oyster. Every variety offers incredible health benefits when consumed fresh. But mushrooms have a unique cellular composition that makes them extremely sensitive to reheating. Unlike most vegetables, mushrooms contain complex proteins, enzymes, and delicate fats that break down rapidly once cooked. Here's what happens. When you cook mushrooms fresh, their cell walls break down, releasing nutrients and flavors. Your body can digest and absorb these compounds efficiently. But when you store cooked mushrooms and then reheat them, especially multiple times or using high heat, their proteins and fats undergo oxidation and degradation. They transform into compounds that are not only harder to digest, but can actually contribute to oxidative stress in your body. Oxidative stress is cellular damage caused by free radicals. It's one of the primary mechanisms of aging and disease. Your body has antioxidant defenses to combat this. But when you regularly consume oxidized foods, you overwhelm these defenses. Research published in Food Chemistry shows that reheated mushrooms have significantly higher levels of oxidized compounds compared to freshly cooked ones. These oxidized proteins and fats can trigger digestive discomfort, bloating, and contribute to systemic inflammation. For older adults, this is particularly problematic. Aging naturally increases oxidative stress. Your cellular repair mechanisms slow down. Your antioxidant production decreases. Adding oxidized foods to your diet compounds this burden. Studies have linked chronic oxidative stress to accelerated cognitive decline, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune function, and even depression and mood disorders. Let me describe what this looks like in real life. You make a delicious mushroom risotto for dinner, rich with cremini and oyster mushrooms. It's a comforting, nutrient-packed meal. You store the leftovers in a plastic container in the fridge. The next day, you reheat a portion in the microwave. Immediately, you notice the mushrooms have changed. They're no longer tender and flavorful. They've become rubbery, slightly slimy, with a muted, almost metallic taste. That textural change isn't just aesthetic. It's a chemical indicator. The proteins have broken down into less digestible forms. The fats have oxidized. Moisture has accumulated, creating an environment where additional degradation occurs. When you eat these reheated mushrooms, your digestive system has to work much harder to process them. For someone with a sensitive gut or age-related digestive decline, this can cause immediate discomfort, bloating, gas, cramping, or that heavy, sluggish feeling that lasts for hours. But beyond the immediate digestive issues, there's the long-term concern. The oxidized compounds you're consuming contribute to overall inflammatory load. Do this regularly, and you're adding to the cumulative oxidative stress that drives aging and disease. The solution is straightforward, but requires a shift in habits. When cooking mushrooms, prepare only what you'll eat in one sitting. If you have leftovers, consider eating them cold. Add them to a salad with olive oil, lemon, and fresh herbs. They can be delicious without reheating. If you must store cooked mushrooms, use a sealed glass container to minimize moisture accumulation and oxidation. When reheating, use the lowest heat possible, preferably a stovetop with gentle warming. Never microwave mushrooms. The uneven, intense heat accelerates oxidation. Never reheat mushrooms more than once. After one reheating, discard any remaining leftovers. Mushrooms remain one of the healthiest foods you can eat when consumed fresh or shortly after cooking, but their delicate composition makes them particularly vulnerable to heat-induced degradation. For anyone over 50 focused on preserving energy, memory, and overall vitality, avoiding reheated mushrooms is a simple but impactful dietary adjustment. Closing into call to action. So there you have it. 5 common foods: spinach, potatoes, eggs, chicken, and mushrooms that transform from healthy to potentially harmful when reheated improperly. The common thread? Chemical transformations that create toxic compounds. Nitrosamines from spinach, bacterial neurotoxins from potatoes, oxidized cholesterol from eggs, AGEs from chicken, oxidized proteins and fats from mushrooms. These aren't dramatic, immediate dangers. You won't get sick after one reheated meal. But that's precisely what makes this information so important. This is about cumulative damage, inflammation building silently over months and years, oxidative stress accelerating aging at the cellular level, neurotoxins slowly compromising brain function for older adults. These small exposures compound existing age-related vulnerabilities, potentially tipping the balance toward chronic disease and cognitive decline. But here's the empowering part. You now have the knowledge to protect yourself. Small changes in how you prepare, store, and consume these foods can make a massive difference in your long-term health. Eat more foods fresh. Use cold preparations when possible. Reheat gently and infrequently. Store food properly and consume it quickly. These aren't radical lifestyle changes. They're simple, practical adjustments that respect the chemistry of food and protect your body's long-term health. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What surprised you most in this video? Which food are you going to change how you handle? Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to put it into practice. Your engagement helps this information reach more people who need it. If you found this valuable, please like this video, share it with family and friends who might benefit, and subscribe to this channel for more evidence-based health content that actually matters. Thank you for watching, for caring about your health, and for being willing to learn. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll explore more hidden health truths that can transform your life. Until then, eat fresh, stay informed, and take care of your incredible body.